in each crisis also there is a chance of doing something different. And what I see also in my part of the world is that we are developing from a very non-digital world into a more digital world, as we have been forced to. Maybe before I kick it off, maybe a few comments around the pandemic, which might be of interest for you as we, and I'm also delighted that Marcus is on the phone, are a little bit ahead of the development around managing the pandemic here. In our part, in the last months or so, everything was very much back to normal, whereby we see now spikes in various areas in Germany, but also in Europe, specifically in Spain and in France. So I think what we are well advised is to take that pandemic serious until there is vaccine, until there is enough medical treatment around it. And I think popping up of the virus is always around the corner. So I think we are well advised to stay healthy. And what I understand is that management, and they have all my respect at the school and around the school, are doing an excellent job to keep you all protected. So I think that's very important. And therefore, I think we're going to get out stronger out of this crisis, as I said, as every crisis has a chance. What I'm going to do within the next half an hour, 45 minutes, is to talk a little bit about my journey, which is not a very straightforward journey, which maybe gives you some ideas in terms of your respective future, and maybe how you can manage your future and your education in a bit of a different way, and maybe also how you can transfer a career with various starting points that might not be too obvious at the very beginning and too straightforward at the very beginning. So I have actually 3 parts, and maybe if we are good in time, maybe I have also a surprise guest joining me for a couple of minutes. I'm going to talk you a little bit through, where I'm coming from, what my education was, and also, give you a few examples. Then, as the title of this digital talk is My Love for India, and as Matthew rightfully said, I'm traveling since more than 20 years to India, and I'm not only a big fan, but also someone who really has a sincere affection and love to your country. Talk a little bit, why this is the case, and also how that transferred and translated into my work and my engagement at MJC. And maybe the third part is a little bit of some ideas in what you can learn out of a career. And I mean, you are at the very, very beginning of your career. I'm at the very end of my career. So I think there's a gap, and in between these gaps, there are some ideas. I wouldn't call it advice, because I think it's always dangerous to give advice to younger people, because you have to learn a lot about your future, and also try and error, the try and error principle. But I mean, some ideas are around that. So starting with the first part about my own journey. I mean, I'm coming. I have no siblings, so I'm coming from a family of a third generation of doctors, which my grandfather, my grandfather, and my father and my mom all have been in the medical service. I had a fairly normal school education, and our school system here in Germany is a bit different than yours. That we have a 2-tier system. We have the ground school, so the junior schools, which is from the age of 6 till the age of 10, and then we go either to a middle school or we go to a high school, and at the end of the high school you get a diploma and then can go to college or to university. I went to school over here. Finished school in the year 78. I had a couple of years during my school education, which you would call the high school, which I did in the US and the West Coast. So I have a high school diploma as well as a German IB, and started in the very early days, even being at school, to discover an interest for all sorts of architecture, being it buildings, being it ancient buildings, being it new buildings, and also through my parents, who in our vacation across Europe, we usually visited old buildings and we visited churches, and therefore, I mean, my idea of studying and my career as an architect came very early. That's maybe a little bit unusual in these days. And if I look at my own kids, who are 26 and 24 now, and both have finished their education, they didn't have a very clear picture when they started their study, and therefore started subjects which were more on the broader side in economics, whereby I had a very clear idea to become an architect. And the good thing is that I had the freedom, having said that I'm the fourth generation and the first one who was not becoming a doctor. I think that's something which I appreciated with my parents, that they gave me the freedom to say, as long as you know what you want to do, it's good, do it well. And therefore there is no pressure or anything else, to become a doctor as well, as that would have created another generation and another legacy. So I started my studies with some internships. I went to the US, to New York, and also went to Saudi Arabia to work on a building site. So I thought, before entering university, it's a good idea to just, try and see, if this is something really which I like, look at the people, at the stakeholders that are working around creating buildings, designing buildings, and building buildings. And that helped me a lot. And I started studying architecture in Zurich, in Switzerland, so the country and the city where Markus comes from, as well as in Stuttgart. And my study was very straightforward. I have to admit, I was at school a really lazy student, only doing as much as I had to do. So don't take me as a role model for your own studies. But that changed very much when I started architecture, because this was something which I was really into. Studies were good. The university in Switzerland was excellent. The teachers were excellent. The professors, I managed to finish and finalize my study after already 4 years, which for an architect in Germany is pretty fast track. So usually you have 5 or 6 years. So as we are working in 2 semesters a year, it would have been 6 semesters, 8 semesters, so 6 or 8. So I was fairly young when I started my professional career in an architectural firm, and through curiosity and also a lot of ambition I had, I managed to make a fairly steep career change, entering into this architectural office. So as usual, if you decide to start working as an architect and doing that, it's usually because you want to focus very much on the design part. So architecture has in principle three components. One is the design part, so where you create something and design nice things. Then there is a preparation part for the execution, and there's the execution part. So everybody who's studying architecture or starts as an architect wants to focus on the design part, whereby the design part in an overall process of designing and constructing a building is only about 5 or 10%. The 90% are more the execution side of it. But what I found out, and that's maybe one of the lessons out of my early career, was that I can encourage everybody, and that's maybe a difficult piece if you are a young person, is to try to always, do some self-assessment and be self-critical to yourself. So my assessment to myself was I was really a lousy designer. All the ideas I had around design, and compare it to my fellow students and fellow architects, I was in no way up to the standard that an architectural office or the profession was expecting to, which was sort of a frustrating process. But it very much transitioned, and that's the first transition I had in my professional life, is to transition from a pure design-orientated architect into more of the management side of real estate, and the management side of construction and of project management, which brought me to add another study. So I went back to the university and did an MBA, so a Master of Business Administration, because in architecture and in architecture at university, the economic piece is really not development. You learn a little bit, but I mean, you have no really idea how economics are working, and you can't read a balance sheet, and you don't know a lot about taxes, about financing, about strategy, etc. So I went back to university and added an MBA to it, with a clear focus to say, okay, if I finish that study, my concentration and my focus in my work will not be on the design side, but more in managing and project managing the whole process around designing and constructing and executing of buildings and of real estate, which was a bit of a game changer. In that, I in the year of '89, after working close to 10 years as an architect in various architectural offices, I decided with a friend of mine to start my own company, a project management company, which we did very much, the two of us, with very little money, no employees, and we grew that company fairly fast to about 150 people. So it was at that time a success story, because I mean, we were number one, very hardworking people. We were fairly lucky to find clients who had the trust in us and gave us assignments. And in addition, we were very conservative on the financial side. So we kept our money together and invested always into the business rather than to pay out huge paychecks, which meant that, with the company and various locations, I mean, we were at about 5 offices across Germany. It was a very successful company. And I mean, the game changer and that was another transition in my professional life, is when we were pitching for the project management to do the refurbishment of the Reichstag building, which some of you know. The Reichstag was the German parliament before we fought these 2 terrible wars. And after that, it was very much a symbol of the occupied Berlin. It was located right between the wall of East Germany, which was the communist part of Germany, very much controlled by the Russians, and the free part, the smaller part of West Germany, which was controlled by the UK, the France, and the US. As the German capital at that time, after the reunification, in the 80s, was still in Bonn, which is a very, very remote and very small city in West Germany. At that time, West Germany. Our parliament decided to move the capital from Bonn to Berlin, and in that context, to refurbish the Reichstag building to become again the German parliament. therefore the German government needed someone on their behalf to be the project manager for that project, which was a very complicated project, not only because it was a huge project, it was about $600 million in overall project costs, but I mean, it was involving politics and the chancellor, and it had a lot of public. So you were very much from the very beginning in the line of fire of the public eye. And when we were pitching with my office for that, we thought, let's give it a try. And fortunately, which we didn't expect, we won that pitch. And I moved to Berlin with my family and became, for the next 6.5 years, the responsible project manager for that project, which involved not only, and some of you have maybe seen the wrapping up of the Reichstag by the artist Christoph, which was one of my first tasks to work together with him and his wife to wrapping up the building, but also to work with all the politicians in your country, as well as with all the VIPs, because I mean, as you can imagine, every state guest that came to Germany wanted to visit the building site. So I mean, I was touring, you know, with the George Bushes and the King Carlos of Spain of this world, which I mean is also very unusual for starting a career as a small architect. So I think you know, summarizing this year, this complex project was very much a turning point, you know, in my decision to go away from a designing architect to a more managing economical side of architecture. The next step, and I would define that as a second transition in my professional life was, and I mean, usually if you talk about the professional life, it's also affecting your personal life, was that we in '95 we decided to sell our company to one of the, at that time, one of the big five consulting and accounting firms, simply because we said, I mean, with 150 people, it's a size of a company that, you know, is very much in the middle of being affected by market cycles and by economical ups and downs, and in bringing in that company into a larger entity, we not only be, you know, more safe in terms of contracts and in terms of utilization, but we also give our people, and I mean, I was responsible for 150 people, and behind these 150 people were families and younger people like you are. We also were broadening our service offerings, and therefore also the future and the career path of all of our people, because I mean, in different environment, we not only merged into that large and globally acting company, but we also gave everybody the opportunity to develop their own career into new service offerings, into cross services, into consultancy, into transaction kind of work. So that was, I think, a big game changer. And in '95, we in principle sold the company, and both my partner and myself entered into a new partnership with, at that time, Arthur Andersen. My next step was then to completely go away from, you know, still being very much closely linked to architecture, not as a designing architect, but more as a project manager, to move to the US again and to build up a global service line for Andersen, which was dealing with all aspects around real estate, not only the design and the construction, but also the transaction, so buying and selling real estate, valuation, so finding the right price for a piece of real estate, but also advising clients in respect of how to manage their real estate portfolio. So something which I'm trying to give my expertise right now at MJC. If you're thinking in the future, how could the school look like in the next 5 or 10 years? What kind of buildings do we need? How do we grow the faculty, how we grow the students, and how do we create an environment, you know, that's going to suit you and your future needs. So that was a different approach from my end, and also something which, you know, I, coming from the original idea of starting as an architect, was another change in my career path. Which you know, I managed in working now in a global entity, working with international clients, dealing with, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people within the company, doing all the coordination work. So it's working for a corporate or within a corporate, even as a partner, is a completely different setup than I had before, running my own company and basically telling everybody what I thought was the best for the company. That was also, and I'm talking in the second part a little bit about that. That was also the change and the first connection I had to India, because I mean, running and building up a global real estate advisory firm also necessarily and naturally had to involve one of the largest continents and a country with, you know, more than 1.something billion people, which was at the verge, you know, of opening up and developing itself, and therefore it was very obvious, you know, that we need some real estate advisory in that country as well. And I remember, you know, my first visits to Delhi and to Mumbai and to Bangalore, and visiting the Anderson offices and talking to the local Indian fellow partners, and said, here I am, and I think we should do some real estate advisory. And I mean, you could think of, you know, that they were, you know, surprised, but they were curious, and they said, yeah, why not? Let's go. And I mean, you know, therefore, I mean, with the openness and, you know, with the interest of my fellow Indian partners in doing something new and being interested in something new, and seeing that also as an opportunity and chance, you know, to develop India as an important player on the global landscape, you know, started my affection and my interest into that country. Which I'm going to talk a little bit later on. Anderson and you know, my path in Anderson then transferred and transitioned into Ernst & Young, because there were some accounting firm, and the company had some lawsuits. So in 75% of the global legal entities of Anderson, we merged with EY in 2002, and in simple terms, I did the same global leadership for the transaction advisory piece as I have done it with Anderson before. Not from the US at that time, so I stayed at home. We meanwhile moved to Spain, and you see the background. I'm in Spain presently, where we're living now. But did for the 18 years from 2002 till 16 years till 2018. I basically ran the global transaction advisory service for EY, which also, and that is one of the highlights during that time in my frequent travels to India, also met Koshi, and through Koshi then his lovely wife Liz, because Koshi was at that time the responsible partner within India for the World Bank account, which I was responsible on a more global basis for transaction real estate, and we interacted a lot with each other, and we became friends, and I met his lovely family, and that was a link to how I got connected to MJC someone is not on mute, so I have some noise. In 2018, in the summer of 2018, I decided, after you know, traveling extensively for almost 20 years and being away from home for almost 200 days a year, I decided that it's I don't know. Can you hear me? Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can.
We can hear you, Christoph.
Now, I hope you can hear me. So I decided to what we call in a very technical term, early retirement. So I said, I mean, it's good enough now. I'm 58 and I can do something different, and that entered into the third transition in my professional career, to say, okay, I have to organize myself, you know, after leaving the corporate world and after leaving, you know, the treadmill of traveling around the world and advising clients, and, you know, being away from home a lot, and the focus now and what I'm doing right now is again very, very much different from where I'm coming from, what I learned. is that I'm not only focusing very much on the work with Liz and Koshi on MJC. I also are being involved in a couple of other NGOs. So the idea behind that is, as I had so much of a blessed life so far, that I think it's important, to give something back to others. And engage without looking at, what is the revenue around your engagement and what is the money in there and what is in there for me. But maybe ask yourself, what is in there for others, and how can I help others, either with, my network or with my experience, with my common sense, but also with my ideas in developing it. So I think that's a very important transition, and that's what my focus will be for the rest of, and as long as I'm healthy, to concentrate more in helping others, because I had a good professional life, but I think at the beginning of 60, you're still young enough to do something completely different. So that's a third transition that I'm beside, doing and working on NGOs, doing a lot of advice to other companies, sitting in boards of other companies, or being just a senior advisor, but not in the way of making the best profit out of it, but just giving my experience and my common sense, and sometimes common sense is good enough to support others, and the 30 plus years I've experienced in the professional life to support others and grow their business and bring them to the next level in their professional careers. And that also very much links to what we are trying to do, and Gesine and myself also for MJC. Gesine very much through the art camp, and myself through working with Farida and the whole group in developing our infrastructure and real estate. So in summary, of my journey, as the end of the first part, what can I tell you? One thing is, as you can see from a career path like myself, be curious and always open for new things and opportunities. I think that's the most important message I can convey is, always look left and right around what you are doing, what others are doing, what other opportunities are around, and just be curious and wake up every morning and say it's a great day. What can I learn today? Because there are so many areas that you may have not discovered, which you can make transition into, as you can see from what I have done, that are not the straightforward path of becoming an architect, but ending up somewhere completely different, but also adding value not only to your own life, but adding value to hopefully your clients and others. Also be interested in people. I think that's another very important message, is that I was always interested in other people, in the careers of other people, in the history of other people, in what other people tell me, because you can learn so much from our peers and from other people, and you can also translate what you learn in own ideas from other people. That I think that's an important message. And the third message I want to convey is, try to be flexible in your professional life. I see a tendency, at least in our very much mature part of the world, that young people tend not to be flexible. They want to stay at home, and they want to they don't want to travel, and they think that's what they want to do for their lives. I think that is not what the world is about, and definitely most likely is not what the future of our environment and our world will be. But you have to be flexible, and maybe also think about moving somewhere else and trying to discover the world, as difficult as it might be right now, and be also flexible in terms of the opportunities that life is offering you. So I think these are the takeaways. You are growing up in a world of a lot of uncertainty, which one can see very negative. I tend to see it very positively, because my philosophy is, I mean, take things positive which you can't change, and we can't change the world as it is right now with all the pandemia problems we have. But I'm pretty sure that will overcome this because we are clever enough, and all of these uncertainties will also create unpredictable changes and opportunities that we just have to discover, and then we have to develop. So that's maybe the first part of what I'm talking about, is my journey and where I am right now, and what are the messages I have. So curiosity, openness, interest in people, also a love and an affection for other people, because I think it's easier to be interested in other people if you are in principle have an affection for other people and be flexible. Coming maybe to the headline of today's digital talk is my love for India. I mean, as I told you, I started in the year 2000 with my first travel to India, or it was even before 2000, and then I continued to come back each and every year, numerous times on business. But I also started, to look at the history of your country, and I mean, it's a highly interesting history of the country, and you can learn a lot about the history of the country, and we can also learn a lot about, how you operate a huge entity of so many people. And what are the main takeaways from being and living in I would say a developing country? What can we learn out of that? And one of the messages we have here is that Indian company are investing into our country rather than we are investing into your country, which I think is an excellent sign, not only about the future, but also about the ideas of being flexible and also looking into opportunities and business opportunities in other parts of the world that are not very much obvious. How does usually for a German start the interest in India? I mean, it's a very profane argument. It's usually by food, because I mean, we have Indian restaurants. Most likely you wouldn't consider them as Indian food, but I mean, we in Germany see them as Indian food, which I fell in love with my family very early. And therefore, I think there was a principal interest, in learning more about, the people and the country behind the food, which I mean, then through my engagement with Anderson and the travel to India, had a very natural kickoff. And I mean, we did. Then I took in the very early days when my kids were, I think, 10 and 12. We traveled to India on vacation, not only in business. We went to the south of India, to Kerala and the backwaters and the mountains, and we went to Bombay and to Goa, and we really traveled it, and it was really a game changer also for my kids, who comes from a completely very protected environment, to see that there is a different world out there. And I mean, the kids both know the US very well, which is also a fairly protected environment. But, to see that there is a different way, and to see how kids in their age are interacting in your environment. So I think that was different. And what we also learned as parents is to see, your country not as through the eyes of an adult, and a very blessed adult, to coming in by plane and to stay in very nice hotels and entering business meetings, but also, to see the country through the eyes of a child who has completely different questions, you have to give them also different answers around, the diversity of your city, and the people, and the density of the cities and these huge entities. Just to give you a flavor, I mean, Germany as at large is as big as Mumbai, Chennai, and a little bit of the surroundings. So I mean, it's two cities plus a little bit of outskirts. That's what my whole country is about. And Switzerland, where Marcus comes from, is even smaller. So we coming from a completely different environment. So that was, I think, one of the first things, also to attract my kids for that country, and they also have an affection for the country. And the second thing which I admire till today is, and which I'm still learning, is a more of a funny event that I had during my Anderson days. I had a client in outside of Bombay, which I was advising, and we were coming to summarizing the assignment, which went for 3 or 4 months, and then we had a huge gathering of the key people of that company in a hotel in Mumbai. And as we Germans are, extremely organized, usually what we're doing, if we're doing a final presentations to the client, I mean, we prepare ourselves and do the dry run. And I mean, a week to me flying to Bombay to do with my Indian team the final presentation, we had a blank white paper. And I mean, I was trying to phone up my fellow colleagues over here and said, oh, don't worry. I mean, we get there. And, it came closer. I mean, it was 5 days, 4 days, 3 days, and I still didn't anything. And I was really nervous because it was so un-German for me and so unknown, that we hadn't had the perfect preparation and had rehearsed it for whatever 100 times. That's how we are acting. And then I said, I think we have to call that off. And when I boarded the plane in Germany on a night flight, arriving at whatever 3 or 4 in the morning in India, I mean, I was really nervous. And when I came to the hotel, my team was presenting me a perfect presentation, which they have done the last 72 hours nonstop. So I mean, the gang looked really, really tired. But I mean, we did an excellent presentation. The client liked it. So the way of organizing things in a different way, but also getting to the same result is something which I meanwhile, admire really in India. And I mean, maybe it's also my age to being relaxed or more relaxed on these kind of things shows me, that you have a different approach to solving problems or to managing topics, but at the end of the day, the result was excellent, the quality was excellent, the client was happy, and I mean that's all what you can ask for. So I think that were just two examples of also a learning experience I had in working in India with Indians and for Indians. I think meanwhile I would say, I haven't counted it, but maybe between 30 and 40 times. And as I said, through meeting Koshi at EY and Liz and Sunil, who also has been a retired partner, whereby I think he was way too young to retire. But they not only became friends, but I mean, they also, attracted me to the idea of my support for MJC. And I remember, and maybe some of you girls and the faculty have already been there 4 or 5 years ago when I did my first trip to Coimbatore and was really impressed, by the size of the school and, the friendliness of everybody and, staying at the stage during lunch hours and listening to the songs you were performing. I think that was really heart opening and heartbreaking for me. And I think since then, my affection and my support for the school and everybody's working there, Matthew and Babu and everybody I met is even growing. So I think that very much fits into just a love for a country, which sometimes is difficult to explain. I mean, also my German friends ask me, I mean, why do you have to travel so far? I mean, why don't you go to Switzerland or to Spain to the same thing? But I think it's well needed and it's well appreciated. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where it is, as long as you can make a difference and you can support and help, and the help and the support is also appreciated. Maybe coming to a close and then also looking a little bit at your questions. What are the lessons learned? So that is the third part of it, and I think I have already summarized it at the end of the part. Is there is no certain pattern in your future life. I think being open, being interested in others, being flexible is maybe the pattern to develop and transition into a life that you don't know yet. Don't be afraid of not knowing the future. I think that's something you just have to let it go, and be curious what the future brings. But don't think too narrow about the future, because there will be a future, and the future will be interesting, and it will create chances and opportunities. Respect is another word. I mean, one of the things I have learned in traveling to almost every country in this world during my international travels during the workday is that you have to have respect for others. I mean, going into a different country because you think you know something better, it's a completely wrong approach. You are always a guest in another country. And even living here in Spain for 17 years now, I'm still a guest in this country. I'm not a Spaniard. I'm a guest here, so I have to respect the specifics of this country. I have to respect that things are maybe be done in a different way, as I also expect respect from people that are coming in my country. And maybe some of you who following the press see all the problems we have with the migrants, in the last years. There are some of them which I think they are welcome in our country, but they're lacking of respect. So I think one of the things that is important for us is that we also have to ask for respect. So, but it's important to be in another country, and I mean specifically in times where we have a couple of world leaders who lack every aspect of respect for their own people, but also for others. And therefore, it's even more important that we are, training and learning respect towards others. One of the other takeaways is learn, and learn. I mean, life is really a learning experience. I'm learning every day. I'm learning every day, from people around me. I'm learning from my kids as my kids learn from me. And I think that's what life is about, that, every day is a new day and it's a new learning experience. Therefore, I think, you have to really be curious and look at all the information, everything you can gather, being it from your teachers, being it from, from the people around you, being it from your parents, from the people you are interacting. You can learn from everybody. And, being interested in people, as I said before, is also part of the learning experience. So seek advice. I mean, also one thing, be proactive, go out to people and ask questions, be proactively and say, can you tell me this? How does this work? How does this function? Don't wait till somebody comes to you, go to others, reach out. And I mean, there are a lot of experienced people around you. There are a lot of experienced people here in the advisory council and around the school. Ask them for experience, send an email, ask for questions, ask for help. I think I'm pretty sure that, everybody is there to give you advice and to help you and to support you. And maybe that brings me to the very end of my digital talk. I hope it was somehow understandable, and I hope you could, take some of the messages and some of the ideas of a really not very straightforward career and a straightforward life, which I'm still looking forward for the next 30 years, and I hope I really get old, because I love life and it's so many things you can do every day, and I'm so curious for the next days to come, as well as, and I hope that will be sooner than later, travel to India. I mean, as you know, we were planning to come in this March to do another art camp and work at the school. That didn't work out for obvious reasons. I suspect, that there will be very little travel release during this year, as we are still in the middle of this pandemic. But as soon as travel allows, you can see me and also see me live back in Coimbatore. Maybe I pause here and hand it over to either Liz or to Matthew, and maybe also answer some questions. And if my special guest comes around the corner, I will also introduce her for a short period.
Christoph, Thank you for a very nice and enlightening talk. If you can see your chat, both Guru as well as Sunil has put two interesting questions, as well as towards the end, Guru is there. Guru has posted a question as well as Sunil, and then 2-3 other small questions. Can you see it? Because, you know, you will be able to read
hold on a
it.
second.
Guru's is towards end.
So I see Guru's question. From Reichstag to Bundestag and being an active participant in the transformation, what according to you is the role of a citizen in general and students in specific in nation building? It's an interesting question because I think nation building is something which it's different from your part of the world than from our part of the world. If I would say nation building, in retrospective, I would say my parents were people who were building the nations as they came out of the war, of the Second World War. My father was in Russia in captivity, so they came back and in a very short period of time built up a country which was really in ruins. Nation building from the younger people as a citizen or as a student is what I just outlined. Is respect, but also is having a voice and also stand up and speak up, because what I can see in countries is that we are ruled by people and we are governed by people that may not have neither the respect nor the affection of serving their country and serving what they have been elected for. And therefore, I think it's even more important to value, or to phrase it different, to support and honor the values that we as a nation and as a country have, which is respect, is to looking for others, to be open, to allow different people and religion into our country. I mean, the migration problem is a problem, but it's also an opportunity for our country, because I mean, as we have a declining population, unless in India where you have a growing population, we need all of these people, to keep the level of comfort and the level of wealth and productivity in our country. So therefore we need these people, but for these people we have to be open and we have to integrate them into our system, etc. I hope this answers a little bit Guru's question. And the one from Sunil, I have to see. The world is changing. I just read it loud. The world is changing every day. In your opinion, what are the skills needed by us in the years to come to succeed? I mean, I think I have outlined it. I think good education is always the key success factor. I mean, as good as your education is, as bright is your horizon, and as bright is your affinity to look beyond borders and to see what can be done, what needs to be done, and what are my ideas as a citizen that these things can be done. So I think it's openness, it's curiosity, it's the learning ability, also to learn ability. It's to look at others, to learn from others. Also, I'm a strong believer in not inventing or reinventing the wheel every day, but looking what others do better than I do, even if they are opponents or competitors. You can also learn from the people who are doing things different and see, does this different approach maybe better suits my problem. So I think it's a principled stance in being open and being flexible to also see what others do and what others do better. But as you said, as I said, education, respect, openness, flexibility. I mean, I'm repeating that on and on and on again. I think the key components for being successful in the years to come, and being positive in your approach to doing things, because I mean there will be setbacks, and there will be more infections. I think this pandemia is not the first one. There will be others come. I think we will be the pandemia, and this won't go away as the US president predicts. It will stay, and will stay for a long time. But therefore, we have to manage around it, and we have to manage, to living with the disease, and to being in a way flexible, also to continue a respectful and good life, despite the fact that there is something that is threatening us on a more global scale than it has been before. I hope that answers the question.
There are a few more questions. One is from Priti Kumari. She is a student teacher. She has put actually 2-3 questions earlier also. And one from Cindy. Cindy is our student from MJC.
So, I mean, I read it loud. I'm Cindy from, can everybody read the question? Most likely everybody can read it. So, I have interest in traveling to many countries and to travel. What can be the next for me to do after my studies? I think first, your interest in traveling is excellent, because I think that's where you learn a lot. And I think one of the things that I have outlined, and one of the key components of my career and my life, have been that I was traveling so much and seeing different things in different parts of the world. So I encourage you to either to travel the world. I mean, that's what I did, and the kids did after finishing their studies, that they bought a round the world ticket and just started in one way of being it in the westerly direction or the easterly direction, and then just stay in various countries for indefinite time, work there, talk to people, do internships, work as a working students, and see and adopt the various specifics of this country, the cultures, what you can learn from the cultures, etc. So I think this is something which I can encourage you. And I mean, definitely, we have a network within the advisory councils, which I think can help it. And maybe one of the next things we have to do is maybe to work on also a sort of an exchange program we can offer in the future into other countries, for students, for them to broaden their experience and also see what the world is like outside of India. There's a question. What you will say about life of an Indian village? Very difficult, because I mean I have never lived in an Indian village, so I'm always if I'm traveling the country and sitting in a car, I'm always interested in looking into villages and see how that works, and the many people and the colorness of the markets and the people around there. So this is, I think, one of the things that are creating and shaping my picture around this country. It's, I think, more the countryside, less than the big cities.
She has actually posted an easier question earlier. Which Indian food you like most?
Which Indian food do I like? Oh, I like everything around tandoori. So that's I think my favorite foods. So Matthew or Liz, Gesine is around as a special guest.
Yeah.
Do you want to have her? I mean, then
Of course, we'd love to see her. The girls would love to see her.
Okay, so
because you said there's going to be a surprise.
So she's coming here. I'm just turning around the computer a little bit.
I'm joining. Wo bin ich? Bin ich irgendwo? Sehe ich mich?
Nee.
Oh, I can't see anybody. No, I see you. You can't see me. That's fine. How are you? I would just like to tell you that I'm really busy with my collection of wool. My plan was to occupy the girls after the painting time with some crutching and knitting. So what I did, I got donation of wool, about, let's say, 300 or 400 liter bags of wool. That's so much that I was afraid that I have mice in my house that will start to chew on that. So what I did, this is just, I don't know if you can see me, this is just, this kind of wool with this crutching thing. And I thought, okay, maybe 1 year later, that's a long time, I started to knit little scarves. And I sold those scarves, and I have such an amount of money now because all my friends gave me, let's say, 20 euros, and then they gave me 100, just to make, I show you, it's really hot over here, yeah, maybe like in India. But if you if you like to see my scarves,
Wow.
they work as the best as well. So I did about 40 or 50 of those scarves in all kind of colors, sold them, and now I have a lot of money for buying crutching and knitting tools for next summer. So this is my surprise today that I showed you. I think Liz knows them already, with a little logo here, with a little pattern. Yeah, well, so on the other hand, we were talking about the fashion shows we were planning, about the mask job we did, and I hope the girls still have that in mind, that they have on focus on a kind of a fantasy thing working out. So maybe they can work on that again, like an online art in fall. Something that would be great.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. So I won't interrupt you any longer.
No. I think the girls are very happy to see your face. Because they missed you in April.
Yeah,
So,
I missed it too. It was really sad, but it's, there's a next time, I'm sure.
Yep,
Definitely.
there will be. There will be. Yeah.
Okay, so I wear my scarf. It's really hot, and say goodbye.
Yeah. Thank you, Gazine. Thank you, Gazine. Yeah.
Now back to the old face here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. In conscious of time, Matthew, if you could, I don't know if this is possible, just print out all of the questions, then I would be happy to just give you via email answers to the ones which I couldn't answer right now, if that is doable or workable. So I'm happy to do that.
No, I think it is done. Most of the questions. Otherwise, we will email it to you.
Yes, you just made it to me. So I hope it was somehow a little bit of insight of a different life and a different career path, and I hope I could encourage everybody to follow a little bit the ideas of learning and respect and being flexible and being open and being curious during their course at school. And I'm pretty sure that faculty is doing the best they can to attract all of the girls, to being as open and interested in their future life. It will be a good life. So see me here as a positive ambassador of future life.
I can see Koshi.
Oh, the big boss is here.
No, I was always here.
You didn't tell me.
The silent partner, so I have to be standing next.
So I think, Christoph, it's just been amazing, and we at MJC are very lucky that we have both Gazini and your support along with us. The girls have definitely benefited a lot, right from all the support that we've had in terms of the art camp and your support in terms of the infra support. Support generally in terms of your basic involvement with us every step of the way. I think the important lessons that they have had and they have got from you today is the beautiful way in which you were able to identify at a very early age that you didn't want to be a medical professional and you would rather have gone into art. You knew your mind and you decided very early on that you wanted to go into architecture. There also you realized that it was not the design aspect of it that you wanted and how you wanted to get into the management side of it, So, you've explained to the girls very well that they need to know their mind. They need to know what they want to do in life. you also transitioned from an entrepreneur, and then you went on to the corporate life, and now you've moved into that stage of life where you are also you've shown to us that it's very important to give back to society as well. Yeah? So very important messages of knowing what you want to do in life, to stay positive, and the fact that one must give back, and to learn constantly, and to never stop learning, right? Whether it's from your children or whether it's from people around you, all very, very important lessons. Respecting countries that you've been to, countries that you've been to, for all, for all of this exposure that you've given them, and for the talk, which has been really valuable. Thank you so much. And we'll see you again on this forum, I'm sure.
I'd love to do that, and thanks for the big audience and the patience you had with me. I mean, the most important thing right now is that we all stay healthy, there will be life after pandemia. I'm pretty sure, and we are planning to be latest there next April, Gesine and myself, and then you can use all the scarves. I mean, my home is full of it, and I said maybe you do a business, or maybe one of the tasks for the girl or the faculty is to create a homepage, where we can sell them, and the revenues of selling these are going directly to the school. Maybe that's a project we can do for the elder girls to set up, and then we would just ship it down to India, and then you can sell it, and hopefully the profits goes into your account.
That sounds like a fabulous plan, and it coincides with the fact that the girls at MJC have started a course on entrepreneurship. One of our friends has started the course, and we have quite a few takers, right, on campus, right from the college girls, school girls, as well as BEd. They've all joined the course. So they're all waiting to be young entrepreneurs. So it's perfect timing. They can join hands with Gesine, and they can build a brand, and it'll be, I think, a wonderful venture. And before I forget, I must, Marcus, remember that you're here. It's just great to have you here. We're seeing you during the pandemic more often than we saw you before. And there's Guru, I think. There's Sunil also online. Farida is here. So it's great to see everybody more often than we ever did. Yeah. And
Marcus, the girls have written some messages, nice messages for you in the chat box. I think you should read that.
I see it. Thank you very much. Very happy to be together with Christoph, your guests today from Europe. And it's such an incredible audience. If you count so many from outside following this chat, plus the 100 inside the Michael Job Center. So I'm happy. Next on 8th August we plan something that I can talk more to you.
And I would say that
great day, and
in spite of all the pain and the pandemic, I think one major benefit of this to us is that we became much more connected, and the children are getting much better opportunity to see a lot of people interact with them, and also do a lot of new things to learn. I think for everything, like you said, every cloud has a silver lining, and so probably I believe that everything has a purpose. And in the last, when it started, we didn't know that we could plan so fast, and we feel the whole faculty, the team, and the students feel really excited. And the thing is, in me and you, we are there in, at least 50 classes as co-teacher, not that we teach anything. At least it gives us opportunity to have a real, ground reality understanding of what's happening, and able to share our thoughts later when we have discussions with the teachers, to share our thoughts and on how these classes can be even made better and strong. I think the whole development in that direction, I think, had been a big blessing. Thank God for that. Something comes with everything.
No, and I mean, Koshi, I fully support, and I think what I think is amazing is, or two observations. What is amazing is how fast the school, went into the digital world. I think it's excellent, and I think we have to give our regards to everybody who was involved in that digital project. And secondly, I think what we at least see over here, and I think Marcus can agree on that, is that this pandemic also brings us a little bit to a reset, that we rethink of what is really important for us, and what things did we do in the past which were not absolutely necessary. And I think from time to time, a reset of your own approach to what you're doing in things is always good. And here we are forced now to do it. And I think at least I can say that for us over here, we will do a lot of things differently in the future that we now discovered are not really important for us anymore. But more important is, to help, entities like MJC and the girls and everybody, because they are the future and they have the future. And therefore, I think that's what we should concentrate on.
Yeah, well said. I think Guru sums it up and says, thank you, Christoph, for sharing your journey and what inspired you. Hope the girls at MJC have heard you and inspired to have their own mind and chart their own path. More importantly, hold the vision and race ahead in life. All the best. That's from Guru. So,
yeah.
Good to see you, Barbara. So thank you.
Yeah, there are nice messages, Christoph, for you also in the chat box. Sunil has written.
Can you just print them out and or send them somehow to me that I can answer all of them?
Yes. No, they have written nice messages to you. Sunil has just written.
Christoph, you and Gazine, I hope I got the spelling. Have been great supporters, and your time and involvement is invaluable. I am sure your words have left a deep impression on all the girls.
Oh, I appreciate it, Sunil.
Yeah.
Very much.
There. I don't know if can you hear me?
And Guru also written earlier.
That she read.
I think they can you hear me, Barbara?
No, I think they're frozen.
They're frozen, yeah. Yeah, I think Marcus's screen is frozen.
Yep.
No. Yeah. Yes, he's still on.
Still there, moving.
Yeah.
Nice to see you both.
I want to take the opportunity to thank you, Liz and Koshi, very much for what you do and what you connect with your friends, with so good community, and bringing them online for the girls. That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Anybody would like to speak? Farida, 1 minute.
Farida.
Farida, you are on mute.
Yes,
Sunil.
sorry. I'm on. Christoph, it was a lovely session. Really, really nice and inspiring.
Thank you very much, Farida.
So,
okay.
If nobody is there, shall we wind up? Yeah, Christoph, a big thank you.
Thank you very much.
Family, from all of us here, from the heart. Thank you to you and
yes, thank you, and stay healthy, everybody, and say hello to everybody.
Bye all. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.